G'day and welcome to the Hunters Campfire podcast. My name's Mark and along with good mate Ian, we're here to help with all things hunting. If you're looking to start but don't know where to begin, you want to make the most of your next trip away or even plan that hunt of a lifetime, we've got something for you. You'll find our podcasts on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon and plenty of others. And if you want more, head over to our YouTube channel, The Hunters Campfire, where we have plenty of how-to and hunting videos along with the full video production of every podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and good hunting.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you all this evening?
Good, Jono.
Good, thanks, Jono.
Cool. Well, obviously, tonight we've got the regulars. We've got Mark and we've got Ian, and we've also got Jason from NIOA. Is that right? NIOA, like tire?
Correct. NIOA is correct. Not NIOA, NIOA.
Okay, so we've just had an education piece on that one because we've all been pronouncing that incorrectly. I think we've all been calling it NIOA, so it's good to get that the correct pronunciation from yourself. Good evening. Welcome to the podcast. Before we get started, we're just going to have a quick round table with Mark and Ian and see how they're going. Mark, how are you going?
Very well, thank you very much. I still have, I don't know, not buyer's remorse, but Northern Territory longing, I think.
Bulldust fever, they call it, don't
they?
Yeah,
bulldust fever. That'd be just good as any. Yeah, I'm still kind of, it's funny. I'm still missing the place. But the good news is I've completed or almost completed the first video. For those listening, if this gets out before the videos gets out, we're going to release 3 or 4 videos around the Northern Territory. So we've got a 25-minute video underway, and I'll even put out a preview probably this Friday. So that's my big piece of work at the moment. And of course, on Friday, I'm going back up to the Brisbane Valley to continue my Friday Arbor hunts and see what I can put on the ground.
Cool. Ian, how you going?
No, I'm similar to Mark, except I've had another trip since then, as you know.
So have I was there.
I know, it was just unreal. We got back from Buffalo, and I'm still touching down from that, to be honest. It really was an epic trip. And just reliving it through the video editing is a lot of fun. I was saying in the preamble before we hit the go button on this podcast that I was just watching some of Mark's editing work, and man, it is a lot of fun, a lot of humour, a lot of good times. So it's a trip we won't forget in a long, long time. But no, Jono and I then packed up the campers and hit Fraser Island for 7 days, and we had a blast up there, far out.
Awesome.
And I think even though this is a hunting style podcast, fishing is considered hunting, isn't it, fellas? So
good enough.
There'll be a bit of a Fraser Island chat coming up. It was some fun stuff going up there. So. Anyway, we'll leave it at that, but having a good time, struggling to actually get into my day job, but that's another problem.
Yeah, as for myself, obviously, NT still big up there for me. That was just an awesome trip, and then to follow that up with a few days on Fraser, that just really topped off the year. I think we've had a great year. I think that's probably it from a trip perspective for this year, I think, from big trips anyway. Now it's time to start planning for next year. But anyway, let's move on. We've got our guest here this evening. So Jason, welcome to Hunters Campfire. So why don't you, obviously you're from NIOA, could you please just give us a bit of a background on yourself and what you guys do out there?
Sure. Thanks again for having me on, guys. It's good to speak to you guys and your listeners. So NIOA is a large company these days. We a Queensland-based company, started in 1963, selling fruit on the side of the road, evolved to selling firearms in 1973, out of a tyre shop and a general service station up in the Maryborough region of Queensland. And the business has really grown strength to strength in the sporting market. And in recent years, we've seen some success with the government work regarding supplying ammunition and weapon systems to the Australian Defence Force. So NIOA has a great rooting in the sporting market of Australia. It's where we cut our teeth. What Rob and his family are passionate about. So that Bill Nyer, for example, was a clay target shooter and a hunter. Rob regales us with many quilpie hunting trips and those kind of trips. So NIOA really sees itself as a grassroots Australian company that's seen some success and through hard work and dedication to the sport. So that's sort of a little bit of a story on NIOA and where we've been and where we're going. I guess is a whole nother story. The success in the defence and government space has been, I think, on the public spectrum now for the last couple of years, and I don't see that changing. Rob is looking to expand where he can, and particularly in sovereign capabilities is a big thing we're trying to do, which I imagine will have a lot of downflow effect for the Australian commercial sports shooter. There's lots of plans at play to help support the Australian hunter through other mechanisms, which I think will be announced in coming weeks, months and years, which is be interesting to see where the company goes. As far as myself, I'm a country boy from New England in New South Wales. Grew up like most Australian young lads, grew up shooting, fishing, hunting from... I can remember I was the spotlight kid on the back of the ute because I was such a big kid. I can remember Dad and all his mates, and I'd be, 8, 10, 12, and, as big as most sort of smaller stature blokes at that time. And I was the spotlight kid, and I started from that sort of age, particularly on those Friday night and Saturday night, particularly fox shoots. And I've evolved my career into the sporting side, rifle shooting, competition work. Being a part of clubs is something I enjoy, the camaraderie of clubs, just like hunting, getting out with your mates. It gives me a similar satisfaction. And I guess in recent years, I've joined industry groups like the Western Australian Firearm Dealers Association. I've been based in Western Australia for 10 years and moved to Brisbane, and recently to take on the marketing manager for sporting position. So, yeah, I've had a broad spectrum of experience across the state, but the states particularly in the selling of all the gear that we all use in the field. So that's sort of me in a real 1 minute nutshell, if I can do that. But happy to drill down on anything you guys want to pick my brain about or have some conversations about.
Sure. When you said New England, I think we spoke about it sometime before. You grew up near Nundle State Forest, didn't you?
Yeah. So my parents live at Wooloman right now, at the base of the Nundle Range there near Chaffey Dam. So, but I primarily grew up in Tamworth, Barraba, around that area, and spent some time over at Taree, flathead fishing in the Manning River. But primarily in that New England region of New South Wales. So yeah, lots of experience being in that Great Divide section of the New England range there. Pigs, deer, you name it, you could see it there. It's one of the best hunting locations I've ever found in Australia now. Admittedly, I've not done a lot of Victorian hunting before, but there's not many places where you can be hunting flatland crop style cull work, and 10 minutes drive you're in 3,000 foot mountains, chasing deer or big scrub boars up in that blackberry stuff. So
it's an awesome spot.
It is a great spot.
Yeah. Have you hunted it in recent years under the R license system?
I've had an R license for many years, and unfortunately, basically about the time I got the R license, I moved to Western Australia to work for NIOA. And I actually haven't hunted under my R license at all, but I've kept paying for it. So
we may have to reintroduce you to
the. I might have picked that up.
I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on what it's like now compared to the years ago that you used to hunt it. Obviously species have expanded.
Sure.
In terms of the herd sizes and things like that. But yeah, I'm just interested in your thoughts. But not having hunted it for a while, that becomes difficult. Maybe on the next chat.
Yeah, look, but I think I could probably... I've got a lot of family and friends that hunt there. I think one thing that I've noticed from being a kid and growing up in that area, deer weren't talked about greatly, and with the expansion up through Merriwa and Musselbrook across the tops there, the amount of people that see them on the side of the road now, like going to my parents' place down there, if you want to crawl through any of those back roads, it's very common to be talking to, some farmers that I've known out there for 25 or 30 years, and oh no, we have them in the back paddock all the time now. They're there, and I don't really remember those conversations at all. Deer were more of a, sort of the dream, if you like. You really had to go looking for them. They weren't the population. They were in pockets. But now they are so common along that range, right up through Armidale, across to Tenterfield. I did some hunting a couple of years ago in Tenterfield, and there was fallow everywhere at Tenterfield. It was goats, fallow. Oh, look, you didn't know which way to point your rifle. And I think that speaks to the expanse, particularly of deer across the range, which is really seen from a commercial point of view. The stores in that area, of which I've worked in the last 15 years, the hunters rather than shooters that are starting to enter the market is been particularly because there's deer species now that are relatively easy to access, and people want to know what's this deer stuff, because as you guys know, a lot of people grew up shooting on the back of the ute like myself, and I'm sure you guys, and it was more coal work than it was deer hunting, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So,
you probably find that the average, this is not to knock the colours, because they have a different part to play, but the average hunter, I guess, that does it recreationally, will go into those shops and spend a lot of money on their equipment and their accessories for the volume of shots they let off, compared to the professional shooters, because they've got their rifle and their bulk ammo and things like that. They're not necessarily buying the packs and the gear that goes with it. So the boost in the hunting economy must have been pretty massive over the last little while. Yeah,
I think if anyone's been to areas like Tamworth and seen the great stores that are now there available to a hunter, I mean, there's some really great stores in that area now. That whole New England area seemed a great pop-up of good retailers now really looking to help anyone they can, and a lot of those retailers are giving back. Special mention to Craig at Calibre Country. He's a great hunter, and I've known Craig for many years, and he's someone that really loves getting out there and amongst, particularly in that Nundle State Forest area. And if you want to talk about dedicated hunters, there's those guys, and the guys at Tamworth Firearms have always been a great service to that area in the community, and been well versed on what's going on in the market. So if you're specifically talking about that base of the range there and looking for some advice, steer your hunters to that area, to your listeners to that area.
Very good point, because you find when you drop over to New Zealand and hunt there, you'll go into the hunting and fishing stores that are over there, and each one of those stores is geared up for the type of hunting that's around them. When you go into the store in Taupo, it's trout fishing and deer shooting and hunting pigs. And if you go, in different areas where there's no trout, and it's on the coast, it's going to be, it's going to be saltwater fishing and things like that. We haven't really had shops that are geared like that. They're more just a general arms supply and a little bit of merch. But it's great to see that stores down places like Tamworth are doing that, and similar down in Victoria.
Oh, for sure. And I think this is, again, the emergence of the industry in the last, I hate to steer the conversation, but in the last 3 or 4 years, with all these new shooters and hunters, I'm going to say both, but hunters that now have gone, geez, I've had nothing to do. I haven't been able to get out of my house for a couple of years, and we'll talk about COVID, I think, for many years to come, what it's done to our industry. And I think what it's having time to watch people like yourself and a whole heap of other YouTubers, and the popularity of hunting shows on things like Netflix now, where there's some key players in that market. There's now guys with the tools, with the time, and with an idea now that, hey, there's more than just going to the rifle range and putting some holes in paper. want to get some food, or I've heard of a club or an association, whether it's the ADA or SSAA Hunter or whatever their local area is. I think we're doing a better job as an industry in capturing those people as they've popped up, particularly in the last couple of years.
Yep. Mm. One of my, I just says before we were talking about, just did a family road trip, and we do them twice a year, and remarkably they generally end up near gun shops. Just happens that way. And one of them was Caliber. Yeah. One of them was Caliber Country in Tamworth, and the other one was Hunters Haven in Armidale. And talk about spend money. Yeah, I do that. Well, in fact, with Hunters Haven, they used to be on the highway there at Uralla.
Yeah,
so they had a, and it was kind of, well, not ritual, but every time I went to Hunt Nundle, I would buy something. You know, and I'm not talking about a lollipop or something like that. I'd buy something from there that was, you know, and the reality is, like Ian was saying, you know, it was stuff that you couldn't get for a trip to New South Wales in Queensland, mostly clothing. Yeah. So, you know, they were selling the Hunter's Element stuff that you couldn't buy in Queensland, you know. So rather than trying to madly try and buy something online or find it here in Queensland if you could, we used to just go, okay, almost like an outfitter, you know. We'd pull in there and go, I want a proper jacket for Nundle. There's one off the shelf. Same with
John and his lovely daughter do have a great little shop there. They have a great shop.
Mm. Oh, yeah, in Armidale, it's fantastic. Yeah. So I was in there and I was in there, tried on a pair of boots. I didn't have exactly the ones I want, but I tried them on there. And again, I'd been wanting to go there for some time. Went in there and, you know, tried on the boots and then said, well, order them in for me. And 2 weeks later, well, they almost beat me home type thing. So, so yeah, there is that. There's a real, and it's the same when we went into the BCF and spoke about fishing, because we were down there in a bit of fishing as well. You know, there's a kind of approach to you know, what you might call fishing, which is you kind of go to a bank and you drown some bait and, you know. But then there was the people who were, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're approaching it. They got, you know, they've got all the gear, they've got the dedication and the time, and it's producing the results they want. And especially with Copeton Dam now overflowing, it seems to be, you know, that it's really kicked off again down there, which is great to see that you know, that dedication to it, like a sporting life outdoors, is fantastic to see and be around. And that's one of the reasons why I really like that region, is it has that feel to it, you know.
Oh, there's a lot of it's a culmination area that you've got so many different. You've got people that have tree changed from Sydney into a large regional town that want to experience something. So there's lots of opportunity. They've got good resources locally. You've got active clubs. You've got great stores, and you've got access in the R license program. So when it comes to the fishing side of things, you know, Tamworth Fishing Tackle is one of the, you know, greatest shops going around that area. Call in and see the team there if you ever through there. They've got a great shop. But just a little bit further up the road from Copeton, I should say down the road from Copeton, you've got things like Split Rock, which I used to live in Barraba, and I've never seen Split Rock full, and it's spilling right now. I had a conversation with my family just 2 hours ago, and they said it's spilling, and they're going to go make a special trip to go and have a look at it because they had never seen it spill in their lifetime. So
wow, we just come back from a hunt for deer just on the other side of Copeton Dam, and it was amazing just to cross the dam wall. You know, the water's as high as it can possibly be, and you can only imagine how deep that thing is by peering over the other side. You know, it's an amazing piece of infrastructure. But it's nice to see everything full.
It is.
Well, we've actually got a family photo. We were down there in 2019 when it was empty, and we were at where you cross over the dam wall, and there's a little place you can pull over. And I've got a photo, and there's goats at the bottom of the wall. I'm taking, as you can see them, we can watch them run around. And now it's literally going over the spillway. It's going over the spillway. So it's I don't know how many meters that is, but it's a significant height. So the amount of water is just phenomenal. And he said, and the other dams down there and the rivers themselves, everything is just green and full of water and full of life. So it's a great time to get down there.
Oh, mate. I spoke to you before we started. I did a little trip to Western Australia and back very recently, and coming through, way out the back blocks there, coming in from Broken Hill, all that area. I've never seen so many budgies, like the budgie flocks just dive bombing the car and all those sort of things. When that country's been starved of water for so many decades, and it just comes back to life when there's so much water around and water laying around. The goat population, like our Cobar, is... I've never seen it green on the side of the road. That goat population was so big, particularly when you're seeing triplets, like every second or third nanny seemed to have twins, and then you'd see this little triplet one in there. Like, you just don't hear of that very often.
Yeah.
Go on to Cuba.
Well, no, we drove from, because we stayed at Lightning, beginning of the year, we stayed at Lightning Ridge and drove out to Burke, and it's like, go, just drove all the way, there's goats everywhere. And, you're right, because we were out, I mean, even in the first year of the rains, we came down from Longreach down to Windora to Quilpie. And like I was saying to the boys, we're going to the desert. So when we drove up the coast and we came in from Rockhampton there through the Gladstone bypass and stuff like that, it was kind of dry. And then we got to Emerald. It was pretty nice. And then we kept going. It got greener and greener. It was the opposite. And that drive from Longreach down through to eventually to Quilpie, it's a 450k drive or something like that. And I'd say 300k of it, there was water on the side of the road.
Yeah, gosh.
Just water everywhere. So
where's the desert?
We've got a number of years of growth coming up in the game population, and the block even the little block I hunted in Brisbane Valley. The amount of just young deer that are on the trail cams and young pigs that are on the trail cams is pretty amazing. So we're in for it. So now is the time.
Nature knows when the time to procreate
That's
is
right.
better than anyone else can
Now's
ever
the
predict.
time. If you want to get out there, now's the time. So I suppose swinging to NIOA. So what brands would someone know that you guys carry?
Well, probably a really big one would be Federal Ammunition and Remington Ammunition. They're two big brands that NIOA distribute. Brands like Loophole Rifle Scopes, been around for a considerable amount of time now, over 100 years. And really good high-end stuff like Lapua, Bushnell. There's plenty of Nosler. Swift projectiles. We have a lot of Anschutz rifles. We've got a lot of bespoke. We actually have over 50 brands.
Okay.
Quite a lot of hoppies cleaning gear. Some of the small accessories like Allen's, Primos, a lot of those little bits and pieces. But, we've started small and built to where we are today, and we've built off getting a good brand and making sure that we service that good brand, and brands tend to come to us these days without trying to sound too cocky, but I think a lot of things happen in a business's expanse or a lifetime, and I think if you can give good service and have manufacturers here that you have good service and you have good relations, the manufacturers talk amongst themselves, and we tend to get a lot of manufacturers knocking on our door these days. We don't have to chase them quite as hard as we used to, which is always nice. But we work really hard to keep the brands that we have, and like I said, there's a lot of brands out there that people probably didn't know they get from us. Like I said, some people not sure how to pronounce our name, let alone what we sell. But one of the great things that we do, and you've probably all seen it in your local gun stores, a hot products catalogue. So,
yes, I've actually got it here somewhere.
It's about pretty close to 500-page catalogue that we do, and there's NIOA's quite small at the top of that, and it's so not everyone knows, but everything from that catalogue comes from us.
Yeah, I got it sent to me earlier in the year, and I kind of went, I was going, there was this. what did I buy that I've forgotten about? What is this thing? What is this thing? And I realised I didn't. It was sent to me by someone else, and I was going, "What is this thing? What is it?" It's because it's a tome. It's, if you've got a wobbly coffee towel, this will fix it.
It's a fair size. I dragged one home from the gun shop when I was down in Brizzy, and my wife hit it. She took it and she hit it somewhere because she just thought there was far too much stuff in there.
That's like
it went missing.
Yeah, that's like the Santa Claus book of all Santa Claus books.
Yeah, look, they do crop up in front. I've seen them getting my car serviced over the years, and you see them quite often on mechanics' coffee tables and places like they do pop up in sort of some blokey environments, if you know what I mean. But look, that is something that probably guys don't know is we just released a NIOA magazine. So only in the last 3 weeks. So that's... I have seen
the ad for it. I haven't seen one in the flesh.
Yeah,
I've seen the ad for it.
It's a really inside look into NIOA. It's an extension of the hot products catalogue. So it has some products that couldn't make it into the big thick hot products catalogue at the start of the year. You know, whether we've acquired new brands or manufacturers have released them mid-year, we put those extra products in there. But there's a big focus on hunting in that magazine. The front cover is got Dave Littlejohn, our longest serving staff member. He's been there longer than most people. He's our first ever staff member Bill Nye hired. So Dave's been there for 35 years. Dave's our current Queensland rep for NIOA, and he went on elk hunt in Montana a couple of years ago with a bow. And so Dave wrote an article and got a 4 or 5 page article out of that and put that in there. And then Fraser, our boss of our new New Zealand business that we've bought recently, Fraser went on another big, I think it was a wapiti or a red deer hunt in New Zealand, and so there's quite a lot of hunting featured in there, as well as new product information. So, get your hands on one of them if you're really looking to see what else we do. It is a focus on our team we're really trying to explain, hey, we're just not faceless men selling hunting gear for money. We are all shooters. We are people that get out there in the field, use the products, and we're trying to show the world that we're just not, we're just not the guy selling stuff. Not a machine. If we're all invested in this because we are all shooters.
Fantastic.
I think I met Fraser.
You might have
at the dinner.
Yeah, I think he might. Oh, that was Simon. Simon.
Yeah, I'm glad
that was Simon.
I forgot that guy's name, so I'm glad you jumped in there.
Yeah, no, that was Simon. So we recently acquired Sportways distributorship in New Zealand.
The story kind of got explained, but I was drinking rum, so
that was Simon. So, but yeah, we recently acquired Sportways, which has been rebranded as NIOA New Zealand. Nice. So a part of our expansion into the global market. So, but again, focusing on.
I've got a follow-up question.
The big question is, can you get us a tank?
Oh yeah, that's
for the
day. Just for the day,
or at least like a
with
a Bushmaster or something like that. Because can you get us something like that,
mate? I'm telling you that you are asking the wrong end of the horse when asking those kind of questions.
Because that'd be nice.
The wrong end because it's usually the back end of the horse with all the firepower. I've got a follow-on question for you from Mark about the brand.
Sure.
And I'm reasonably well known as the guy that doesn't really know much about stuff.
Sure.
I just like going hunting. I ask all the dumb questions. I'm looking at your website, and there are some very well-known brands on there. But are there any? I know you guys manufacture for defence, and it's stuff we won't even cover because we probably can't talk about it anyway. But how much of that filters down into sporting? And do you, in the sporting arena, manufacture your own product as well, or is it all sort of distributorship?
So for sporting, at the moment, it's definitely all distributorship.
Yeah.
that's what we built the brand on. We don't go to China and, some of the big box stores around the world, go to China or the Asia Pacific, look for someone to make something the same as someone else's product and rebrand it as their own brand. We tried that. We've bought a few of our own brands of safes in over the years and things like that, and we've found that the big brands that are 50 or 100 years old tend to not just sell better, but in general, people feel a little bit more comfortable in spending their hard-earned dollar on a brand that they know is going to be around for another 50 or 100 years.
Yeah.
So, but we are all distributorship. In the sporting market, there's definitely brands that cross both our defence and sporting market space. So there's quite a lot of brands that we represent that brand in the defence space as well as the sporting space, and there's a few that we do only in defence and some only in sporting. So it's a mixed bag, but we don't manufacture anything right now for the sporting market.
That's fair enough.
So do you guys have anything to do with what happens with the sporting products that come out of Lithgow?
No.
Okay.
That's all another brand, unfortunately.
No, I know that, because that's probably the only, onshore manufacturing that's happening at the moment, at scale. I mean, there's a lot of people that make stuff in Australia, but that's probably the only one at scale. Okay.
There's lots of little bespoke guys
that's right.
making bits and pieces. Yeah.
That's right. There's some very nice stuff getting made. I've got a ridiculous collection of, handmade knives.
Yes, there's no shortage of those guys.
As I said, I'm off the flame with those things. Honestly.
And torches.
No, torches okay, because at least, if someone made torches, it'd be even worse. At least with torches,
that'd be a tough market to
I
enter.
find a brand,
torches,
and I find a brand, and I stick with that brand. But with knives, anyone who's got a shiny knife on their stand, I tend to go, oh yeah, that looks great, I'll have that, and then think, what am I going to do with this thing? So I've got a really nice collection of never used knives.
Yeah.
But and they're all bespoke, made by someone. I admire manufacturing, especially that kind of level of manufacturing. And so it's great to see that kind of stuff. So it's interesting. I mean, do you think? I don't want to load the question up anyway, because But do you think there is would there be could Australia support a homegrown manufacturer?
I think so.
You do?
Okay. I think there's space for it. I think there's probably lots of people working on working on lots of different plans right now.
Yeah.
I don't operate in the defence space, so don't presume to speak for that. But I think if anyone's watching the news right now, you can see that there's quite a bit of money being spent in the defence force.
Yeah.
And I think to make local manufacture viable, in my opinion, having a defence option within that business and a sporting product, I think would go hand in hand. I think you'd find there'd be a lot of business case reasons, particularly if it wasn't a private owned enterprise and there was going to be government money invested. I think that entity, whoever would do it, would need to be looking at both us, being able to export some product both in the defence space and the sporting market space to make that viability of that manufacturing plant work.
That's it. So if they had the anchor of the defence contract, because those things last for a long time. So having that anchor, then okay, that's interesting. Because I know you guys are, you've got a manufacturing plant up there at Maryborough.
Yeah, so that's
ammo. That's ammo that's measured in hundreds of mils, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So
that's not 9.3. That's not 155 and stuff like
correct.
that.
Yeah. So I can touch on that a little bit. So that's a joint venture between NIOA and Rheinmetall.
Yep.
So which is a German company, and that's an artillery forging plant.
Yeah.
So all it does is forge the shell. There's no high explosive, to my knowledge, in that plant. So it's extruding machining out of billets, all sorts of things. It's a state-of-the-art facility. Currently, it is the most sophisticated 155 forging plant in the world.
So
It's
are they
the
making
newest.
the projectiles or the casings?
My understanding, it's the casings.
Oh, okay.
I've never stepped foot on there,
No,
but
no,
my
no,
understanding, it's the casing, and they are doing. I think there's lots of steps in that up there, and it's such a big facility. And like I said, I'm no expert in that part of what's going on there, because it is a joint venture and something that I don't dabble in every day.
Yeah.
But
I think you'll need some special clearance to get in there, I think.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously what goes on there is is not to be. Obviously, it's secret, but I mean, it's a known entity.
yeah, it's not so secret that every politician's been there.
That's right. That's right.
Taking a photo out the front.
That's right. Everyone goes there and shakes it. Instead of a silver shovel, or gold shovel, they got a gold casing above their head or something like that.
Yeah. It's actually been a great story for the Maryborough region up there. Because that community, and again, Rob is all about sovereign capabilities, and he's about Queensland and about Australia, and that's his home area. And for him to be able to be a part of a facility that gave back 120 or 130 jobs back to a community that really started to suffer once the train manufacturing in that area died off. It's been a real boost to that community, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if you walked up there and used the word NIOA, and I think the community would be happy to speak those words up there, because it's brought a lot of change back to the town and a lot of excitement and invigoration. There's actually a couple of other defence companies doing some manufacturing and building in the aerospace side of things up there, so it's becoming a little defence hub really quickly up there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know, again, kind of drifting, but there's a remarkable about how much that actually is happening, around the place. I mean, from the when they were putting the Tigers together over at down Lytton or whatever it was, and I think they're going to, one of the factories they're building out there at Redbank is something to do with defence, and is what's happening. And one of the reasons why I know about the Maryborough one was I actually worked in Maryborough, or just outside of Maryborough, for years. And I also happened to work for Queensland Rail once upon a time, and when they were, that was I think it was called Walkers once upon a time, when they used to make trains out of. They used to make the trains out of there. So it's a long-term manufacturing area that's kind of ebbed and flows. So
it's interesting, just from my perspective, from someone who knows nothing about manufacturing, to have a green site to pushing the first shells out as we speak, 2 years. And I think that probably speaks to a lot of people's dedication to get it across the line, because it will be a good story, and is a good story for every Australian, to be really honest. I think every Australian's going to see a benefit of this. Our own capabilities for, cross fingers, the worst thing never happens, but right now with what's going on in the world, 155 artillery is the most sought after ammunition type in the world right now.
I read something very similar about that in the paper. The Yanks are saying they're getting close to their level that they want to have, their minimum level of war stock. So they're going to go shopping.
Yeah, and all that's to do with donating it to Ukraine.
That's right, yeah. So they're actually saying we're running at low, minimum levels.
But
so
I think to circle back where we started, and anything that any company, regardless of the name, can do to produce something here in Australia that has a domestic application and a government application, I think is sure to be a great Australian success story moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think there's the opportunity for people to step up to that plate, and the benefit will filter all the way down to, it might happen next week for the Australian hunter or shooter, but in 2 years' time, I can see upcoming things that are really going to benefit, people in our, guys that just want to go for a shot. So,
And I keep circling back that we want that tank. That's it. Or at least something with 6 wheels. It doesn't have to be a tank. Tank could be probably a problem with tracks, but something with 6 wheels would be cool.
I could share with you a video of. This is definitely a sidetrack. One of my colleagues at work had a dodgy car, and that he had a big fight with the manufacturer, and that dodgy car ended up in a park down near Brisbane that we ran over with a Sherman tank.
Yeah,
I was the proud person on the top of that tank with the GoPro on the day.
Really? I didn't know that.
I paid the highest amount to sponsor it.
I do know that particular event because I do know the manufacturer that you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that in the paper. I didn't know that you were associated.
I was
with
the dude. I was on the top.
There's if you look down on Kingsford Smith and Sugar Mill Road corner, there's always lots of Bushmasters parked down there. If you want to go and have there's a few painted in Ukraine colours down there at the moment.
Yeah, I just think something with 6 to 8 wheels would be cool.
Yeah. Anyway,
just a combination. It look cool.
Put a trailer on your car, mate.
That's right. Put a trailer on the back of the
mate, what I want to know is who's got enough money to fill it up with diesel.
Well, I don't know. I reckon
give me
we
the
park
tank,
somewhere.
I reckon we'll have a
I just think we park it somewhere and we just kind of make it a home base, Do a podcast out of it.
That'd be pretty
Podcast
cool.
On that, how much diesel does it take? How much can it take? How much? I've heard these stats before. Some ridiculous amount of money an hour to run one.
Yeah. Too much money, I would think.
Try it. Yes. When I was a real little kid, we used to have a holiday home, or we had a shack over on Coochie-Mudlow Island. It was actually a very nice shack, but it was still a shack. There's no power, no water, and stuff like that. So it was up the only way on Coochie-Mudlow was by private boat or by the daily ferry that used to go across. And there was roads over there, but the way that those roads were accessed was either somehow people got a car over there and it stayed there. It never left that island. And there was a guy, I remember this as a kid, I still remember there was a guy who bought an old or ex army duck. And I remember when I was like 4 years old or something, I remember this thing just coming out of coming at the beach and then coming out of the beach and just driving up and driving into the scrub, and it's just like these 4 wheels that just appeared out of nowhere, and I thought, that is the greatest vehicle I've ever seen.
You're talking the old 1950s sort of
just like
British
a boat,
film sort of.
Like a boat with 4 wheels, basically. It looked like that thing. Big prow on it and 4 wheels, and it just drove straight up, and he used to do supply runs and bring stuff over for people and stuff like that couldn't get on the ferry. It was a great place to live. So, bouncing all over the place. If I wanted to get into hunting, what's the connection between what you guys do and what would that connection be for someone like myself? So if I've got no knowledge, I don't have, I don't come off the farm, I haven't been shooting rabbits off the back of a truck under a spotlight. Where do you guys see that as a potential customer for you guys?
I think people would come to us. We answer. I'll frame the answer a little bit different. About 70% of our daily inquiry on the telephone now at NIOA is consumers. It's not our dealer network. It's consumers. It's consumers looking for us for, hey, where can I get this? Can you give us some advice on this? So from that port of call, I think if you start to Google, like if you're someone with no knowledge, I think the internet is the place you would go. And I think if you start looking at hunting or products, I think you'd probably find you land on our page pretty quickly. And with a very limited amount of research, you'd pretty quickly find that, hey, we're probably someone that you can call and ask a few things of. And I think the connection really would be for us is that first gun. Hey, I really want to get into pig shooting. I've got a mate or a mate of a mate that's sort of starting to get interested. Hey, I saw a thing about an Adler on TV, hey, what's this all about? Without digging up some old bones, but that's that, you know, there's people that have just become aware of certain products, and generally we would have either a call come in and we would direct them to some brands or to their local store normally to seek that advice. But I think their first gun is generally, hey, I want to start a discipline, whether it's a sporting or hunting, or that first port of call, I think, is where our first connection with new people, new shooters, new hunters is. And then after that, it's normally back up and service. Hey, I've got this product. Can I have this looked at? Hey, I had this great experience. Do you have one coming? Because my local dealer doesn't have one. Can you give me some inside knowledge on when that's coming? So, but definitely the first port of call is generally that first step past Google, and they're looking to get a product.
Yeah.
And
I mean, this is really something that we're really interested in, because, you know, a big part of why we started was to help people get started. So it's always interesting to understand the kind of questions people are asking.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I suppose I've noticed over time is that there is now a transition to being a hunter rather than a shooter for a lot of people. I mean, there is guys who are most definitely shooters, and I mean, long range practical is a great example of that. That's what and they're kind of like those guys who own $10,000 bikes. You know, they're right into it. You know. But for a lot of people, the hunting thing seems to be what they're attracted to. And I think there's a lot of different reasons for that. I suppose the interesting thing, conversely, is that there is a hell of a lot of interest, but there is very little knowledge. And what we've tried to do is help fill that knowledge gap. So, what kind, when you're talking about first gun and things like that, what kind of questions are you getting? So that we can capture to help people along the way. So, what's the level of I suppose knowledge they're bringing in those questions, and what kind of questions are they asking more specifically?
In general, I think one of the age-old questions that will divide us will be, hey, I've seen this great-looking rifle. I've seen some reviews. That generally is about the knowledge they come with, where they've done some exploring, whether they've been to their local shop, whether that customer's just done some YouTube, and we just happen to pop up quite high on Google all the time as a business. And generally when they come to that, it's questions like, hey, what's the best caliber? That is an age-old question. What 223s do you go and speak to any guns shop guy and say, the question that they get the most, and is also one of the most frustrating questions for a store worker, is what 223s do you have? But it's one question that I think we all have to start somewhere. And I think at that point in time, all of us can do a better job of making that new guy feel a little bit more welcome, I guess. Maybe not, here's another one of these guys, But generally that caliber question is always a great one. And optic, you'd be surprised, they might have picked their caliber and they get to the optic, and optics can be quite scary for some people because there's so many to choose from. And go and speak to an old guy at the range, go and speak to someone that they think may have some knowledge, go on YouTube. And optics are something that is just such a wide topic, and everyone has a different opinion on optics. So they'll generally come to us and come through that customer service window of, hey, I'm thinking about this 3 to 9. Would that be good on this 22?
Yep.
And I think that's the caveat for us.
Yeah, and I think, and you're talking about optics. I guess a question that I see a lot on forums now is around warranties. So obviously Leopold, Bushnell, and all that, they've got their lifetime warranties, and that's a question I see getting asked a lot. Now, you guys manage the warranties of those here in Australia, don't you, for those products?
Yeah. So any product that NIOA distributes, we look after the warranty. We always direct you back to your local dealer first. And there's multiple reasons for that, because quite often that local dealer, he will give us a call and we can sort you out on the spot. Sometimes if it's a legitimate problem and we've got lots in stock, there's often an opportunity for and the dealer is more than happy to exchange it on the spot. If it's something that we can look after quickly, we will. It's a little bit more difficult these days with some products that are technical, so thermal devices, where there often can be user error in the product. So quite often we see that product having to be returned. But as far as warranty and backup goes, you can deal with us direct at work, but we encourage everyone to go to their local dealer because that's the port of call. And that local dealer can quite often be best place to get you rectified a lot quicker than, if it's a firearm from places like Western Australia to Brisbane with the current freight scenario that we have, mate, that could be a 3 or 4 week exercise just in freight to get it there. So if it's something that we can liaise with your dealer about and get it rectified there, we'll take that opportunity to do that.
But on that, so but if there's a fault with like a Leopold scope, for instance, you guys are not you're not sending that to the US to get rectified. You're dealing with that locally.
Not.
Yeah.
So locally, we've got one of the only Leupold repair facilities in the world. So Leupold traditionally have been very cagey about letting their proprietary tools pass their front door. And with the world changing regarding paperwork, to send a scope back to Leupold right now, you need an export permit. To go through that export process yourself is not only costly, but it's not viable for most people just to do it for a one-off repair. So Leupold saw the need, and we have the skill and the facility to put an optics lab in. So Leupold, our techs have been both to Leupold in Oregon to be certified and trained, as well as Leupold come to us on a yearly basis to do tech updates. And we can actually build a scope from complete scratch there in our facility. So if someone needed a small repair done, that often is, if we have the parts, and we quite often have just about 90% of the parts in stock all the time, you could get a small repair done in less than a week turnaround. One of the key features, I think, touching on the Leupold brand and what we can do there in that facility is things like customization. You buy a Leupold scope for your 223. 5 years later, 8 years later, you're thinking, geez, I bought another scope, and now I'm going to put that scope on a 22. Well, the parallax on that original scope is probably set to 150 yards, and you're going to put that parallax 150 yards 3 to 9 scope on a 22 now that really needs to be parallaxed at 50.
Yeah.
For a very small fee, we can set that back to 50 for you. So instead of having to go and spend another $300, $400, $500, $600 on a new optic, you just send it back to the leupold.com.au, fill in the quote form. It'll quote you straight away what that cost is. If you want to go to your local dealer, the cost will be the same from the local dealer to get that done. Generally, most people like to deal with us direct on that, because quite often they'll go, hey, can you give it a service? Can you do this? Can I change the turret? Can I change the reticle? And that's the best part about having a Leupold facility here in Australia, because many other brands has to go back to Europe to get repaired, or it has to go, and if you want to upgrade it or change it at some stage, you'll need to go through a significant process. We can do all those sort of customizations, turrets, reticles, repairs, all in a matter of days, all to Leupold standards in the US. There's no difference whether we've built it here or they have. The quality control and build spec is the same.
And the warranty's still valid based on that?
100%.
That's excellent.
So to confirm, a lot of people get confused about lifetime warranty with Leupold. Leupold is the life of the scope, not your life. So if you give that to your kid for his 21st birthday present, and something I've seen and had done for many people over my time in the trade has been happy 21st birthday Billy Bob, and we'll laser engrave that for someone on a nice rifle scope. You want to, that Billy Bob wants to give it to his son when he's 55 or 60. That scope still has the same warranty. If you read the fine,
I'm glad you clarified that, because the life of the scope for me was I dropped it on a rock. The scope's dead. It's no longer warranted because life's over.
Yeah.
That's how that can be read. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, when it comes to that, I'm not going to speak too much out of school, but it's not an unconditional warranty. But I tell you what, if you've said, hey, mate, I genuinely dropped this.
Yeah.
I've been a great customer. I've had 3 loopholes. Don't be surprised if you either get maybe it for free, that repair, or you get a significant reduction in the repair. I've seen that many times happen, not just from our end, even when we were getting it from Loophole directly. Those repair done, we're quite flexible on how we get that treated, and there's plenty of articles out there to back that up.
Yeah, that's what happened with me. I broke mine. You repaired it. That, remember when we were down in Pilliga, John?
Yep. Oh, that's right. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I had
That's right.
that lovely, what was it? Just the
The
VX5, I think it was.
VX5 or 6, yeah.
And I had, because I carried my lefty, so I carried them, and what I found was the illumination turret, because it's a 3-turret scope, was just rubbing. And it wasn't illumination. It was actually one. It was one of the, I think it was the windage.
It was windage.
One of them came off.
Yeah.
It was goats. I went, hang on. So we literally set it up, shot at a target. Went, that's where it's shooting. Gaffer taped it.
Gaffer taped the thing.
Said, okay, I know at 100 yards where it's going to hit with gaffer tape. Literally gaffer taped the whole thing together. Hunted for the rest of the week. Shot lots of goats. And then went back and I contacted you guys and I said, hey, look, I broke my scope. And they said, where'd you get it from? And I went, I got it from Madden on Target in Brisbane. And they said, okay, well, you take it there. And I said, oh, okay, sure problem. And Matt, when I came in, they were looking at me a bit fish-eyed, and I was going, what's going on? And they go, did you call? And I said, yeah. And they're going, oh, they didn't know if you were for real or not, because your story was so oh, mate, I broke this. And I said, no, I just told the truth. They were kind of going, the story sounded really strange because it was the truth. Yeah. I broke it. There was no doubt about it. And it got repaired, yeah. So that was it. Yeah, it went away and the new turret came back. Yeah, but I literally broke it. Carrying it. It was I remember it was we'd been hunting. We were down there for a week. Mm-hmm. The trip was for a week and we'd been down there for 3 days and we hadn't seen anything.
Yep.
And it was tough. It was really hot and tough. And we were just going, holy hell, this is bad. It's Pilliga. You're supposed to have goats falling out of trees type thing. And then that day we got goats that day. And then me and John had shot a good one, and we ran into the other guys because we hunt separately, and they just shot a really good one too. And then just after lunch, we bumped another mob, and I remember, and it was everything was going. And I looked at the rifle and went, "Holy moly!" It's like guts hanging out of it.
Springs.
Stop! I said, "That's it for me." I stopped. So,
mate, there's even Ferrari mechanics. Just remember that.
Yeah, that's right. If you want a Rolls Royce, you've got to have someone who can fix the Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
Rolls Royce, yeah, that's true.
I was going to say, Jason, I'll get to test this out because my first rifle, I'm saying this cheekily now because I've just scanned your list of brands. My first rifle was a Remington 700 270. That's the first deer rifle, and it has a Bushnell scope on it. And on a Samba trip a couple of years back, I dropped that rifle and it landed on the scope.
Oh, wow.
I've not been able to use that rifle since. Or the scope's still sitting on top of it. Well, the story goes, I dropped it. It's fair upside down. It landed with the scope cap on a rock. It the scope cap. Right, and of course I've gone, that's a shame. I know it's still, I haven't broken the glass. It's all right. I'll just put the scope cap off. So as I twisted the scope cap off, all I could hear was and I'm like, now I've got no idea where my 0 point is. I've gone back as many clicks as my brain could remember I turned. You know, you get this muscle, you know, you go back again. Yep, is that right? I thought, I can't go shoot the sound by not knowing where the hell this thing is. But I couldn't get the scope cap off. Right, it was dented too badly, so I hacked into it with my Leatherman. Right, so I've got video of me with my Leatherman with the you know, the cut the tree down little blade, cutting through the scope cap so I could get a hole in the top of it so I could pop the dent out and get the thing off, bore sight it, and then go hunting for a week, which is exactly what we did. But unfortunately, it doesn't work anymore. So, I'm going to test your friendly service and see what the quote looks like.
Oh, see what we can do, mate. But like I said, the Loophole Custom Shop, we specifically look after the Loophole product there. Unfortunately, Bushnell brand is something with their warranty that we can only... we can't crack them open. There's no parts available to us to work on that. So it'll be the old-fashioned if it's got, depending on which warranty and when it was bought, because...
Ironclad.
You know, yeah, see, that's the... It's a very Bushnell, you know, not bagging the brand at all, but they've had a lot of buyouts in recent decades. You know, they've bought and sold a few times, and they've changed up their warranty. So we're dealing with some of the old product under the old warranty, and we're dealing with some new product under the new warranty, and they are slightly different. When it comes to warranties, particularly with optics, if you go to the warranty section at the NIOA website in the top right-hand corner, you'll see a little warranty tab there, and there's Loophole, Bushnell, Tasco, and Simmons, I think, optics warranties there. So it's quite clearly laid
That's
out.
a name I haven't heard for a while.
Yeah, so Simmons is owned by Bushnell, which is owned by the Vista Group.
Yeah.
And Simmons and Tasco and Bushnell are all under the same banner.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the old Whitetail Classics, we still are fixing Whitetail Classics from many years ago, because they were sold with a lifetime warranty as well. So that's something that we do see come in from time to time. But I saw a Loophole from 1960 something. They did a date check on the serial number, come in, and it got repaired. It lost its gas over the time somehow, and they resealed it and gassed it and sent it back on its way for that gentleman. That was only about 4 weeks or 5 weeks ago.
Wow.
So it is.
I think it's really impressive that vendors are warranting products for life, like a lot of these ones are, especially in the... I mean, we're all very careful of our gear. You know, you spend a lot of money on the equipment, but,
sure,
you know, accidents happen. We are in high-risk situations, so... Yeah, it is pretty impressive that this stuff gets warranted.
Yeah, I think the benefit that Loophole, particularly, it's founded and owned by hunters. That's they understand, if I can say, shit happens sometimes in the bush.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It always happens. If it doesn't happen, you're not doing it right, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
If there's no kind of moment, then you're probably not doing it right, I reckon. Every trip's got to have an moment.
Well, the auto moment's what you remember. It's what the story...
Right.
When you're sitting around the campfire like we are now, those are the moments that make that hunt worth talking about. That's that cultural benefit that we get from sitting around a campfire and telling those stories and remembering, remember when that happened?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had an auto moment when we were up in the territory. Everything went perfectly right, except for I didn't realise there was 2 buffalo instead of 1. And I had an eye moment, I tell you. That was an eye moment. So yeah, so that it's true. So your gear does. I mean, that's what it is. You know, we're playing for keeps. Your gear needs to work, and it needs to work. You know, people talk about years hunting. I reckon it comes down to seconds, and you need your gear to work in those seconds, or it just doesn't come together. Being someone who's fundamentally interested in this stuff, is Redfield still around?
So Redfield was around and with us up until I think maybe 2.5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So Loophole bought Redfield from the old ATK company about 15 years ago, 18 years ago, or something like that. And I think, from my knowledge, Loophole has sold the brand to a large US-based company, to I think a big box store. I think they've either sold the brand or they're not making the product for distribution for other than that. There's been something going on. I'm not quite 100% on that, but it's not around in the Australian market. Probably just year prior to COVID, I would think, or about that time.
Okay. Yeah, because that was one of those, brands that once upon a time you heard a lot of.
Yeah.
Simmons, and Tasco's another one. I mean, once upon a time, every second rifle scope was a Tasco.
Tasco 3-9x40, that's it.
That's right.
Tasco World Class in Japan,
That's right.
3-9-40.
Yeah.
That's it. Tasco Japanese spotting scope, great piece of glass.
Tasco, I can remember the first scope I was in Foster's Firearms, and old Athol was in there in Robert Street in Tamworth, and I think I was 14, and Dad was looking for a new scope for my 1022. I think that he bought me, if I recall. That was the year before Port Arthur, so I wasn't allowed to shoot that for very long.
You had it for a year,
yeah. And I'd graduated with the 1022 off open sights to optic. And we went into Foster's Firearms and bought a Tasco World Class Silver Antler, and I still have the scope.
Wow.
Japan made, and I tell you what, if someone was to go around and collect all those old Japanese Tasco World Class, because there's a lot of them out there now, there's actually a little bit of, I think, collecting it can be done around. There's still a lot of good scopes out there, and they're you can probably pick them up in the dealer second-hand bin for $50 and, mate, probably put them on a good old 22 and have no drama with it and have a great bit of glass.
They're Japanese glass. I mean, when I used to do competition, if you could, for a spotting scope, if you could afford it, you had European glass. If you couldn't quite afford European, you had Cowa. And if you couldn't quite afford European, you found a Tasco world-class spotting scope. No, but just... fantastic glass.
In 2010, I happened to be working for Tasco Australia at that time in another life as a Queensland sales rep, actually at the time, and I was on holiday out of Dubbo and called into GunPro and saw Marty Burke, and he had one of the last 6-24 Tasco world class target scopes made in Japan. And I purchased that, and I was working for the company, and I purchased that quick, hastily, straight from Marty Burke on that, and I still got that scope. But unfortunately, with the acquisition of Bushnell and Tasco and Simmons all in the same company these days, the mother company have pushed Bushnell up as their premium brand. So Tasco is being pushed as, I guess, if you like, an everyday man's product in the US market. So quite a lot of you can't see any Japanese Tasco product anymore, and you'll see Japanese in the high-end Bushnell brand, but most of their mid-brand. We just saw the re-release of 4500 Elite into the Australian market this year. It had been lost for several years. It's Korean manufacture. I did some optics testing with the product with our team at SHOT Show, and when they landed here in Australia, and by all accounts, if you stack it up next to an old 4500 Elite, optically, from what I can test at a low light, rough test out at the farm with two scopes sitting beside each other on a tripod, they stack up pretty similar. It's very difficult to tell the difference, and I think that's the world's. A lot of these older Japanese-made products are used by older factories where they use a lot of leaded glass, and leaded glass means heavy product. But a lot of the other Asian countries have developed new machines, new processes, and quite often you can find that a Korean or other made scope will be pretty close to the old benchmark of the Japanese product. So I think Australian consumers, don't be scared to buy something that's not made in Japan, because that mid product now for that $500-600 is very good value for money, and have a look at it. You'd be quite surprised as a new shooter, a new hunter, if that was what your budget was at $500 or $600, you'd find a great 4 to 16 or 3.5 to 10 or something of that nature for many brands, and you'll see good life out of that product.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point because, you know, doing regular optics reviews, I mean, you know, having, I think I'm not, well, I think this is my 36th year of owning firearms. You know, you tend to become, you tend to kind of become a bit of a snob, you know. So, you know. If it doesn't end with ski, you kind of look down your nose at it. But you realise that, you know, and I had kind of had this. This is an epiphany I had with my boys when, you know, when they were real little. I thought, oh, you know, he wants a 22, so here's a Bruno, you know, Model 2, 22, perfect gun for it, you know. No, that's a perfect 22 for me. For a 12-year-old kid, it should be like some lever action, you know, thing that he can bang around and drop around and you know, and learn to use properly and actually get something out of it rather than. So, you know, you don't, with a lot of the optics, there's a whole range of optics across a whole lot of manufacturers who are in that mid-range that offer you really good opportunities to get good quality optics without having to literally, you know, break the bank.
Yeah.
But the trouble is you tend to be at the point where, you know, you own the stuff that breaks the bank. You've made the decision and you've spent the money. And I've always said with, you know, Swarovski, they're never worth it until you buy them. And then you kind of go, yeah, this is worth it. And what do you call it, Ian? What's it? It's massaging my eyes or something.
Massaging my eyeballs. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
but that's the trouble, you know.
Just don't look through them, and if you can't afford it.
That's it. They are that level. They are that quality. But that quality is really, really, you know, hard for some people to achieve. You know, from a price point for a whole lot of different reasons. So there is a really nice bandwidth there in the middle of stuff that, you know, will give you very, very good quality optics and very good options in quality optics without having to really, you know, go, you know, Swaro or one of the big, you know, the kings of European kings. And I think, you know, one of the challenges is if you're new and you don't have that background to rely on, and your mate goes, yeah, I've got, you know, I shoot long range and it's got a, you know, it's got a light force on top of it and that costs this much and it's on a sled and it, you know, and it's in a frame and my bipod's made out of carbon fibre and it costs $3,000 per leg and things like that. You think, okay, I need that to do something, and I think that's a really a great learning for people to go, you know, the middle of the range stuff will get you in the field, it'll get you shooting, it'll get you experience, and then you can make better decisions as you go.
To expand that conversation, we had a conference with some writers and some other guys a week and a half ago, and a campfire conversation that we had at 5 o'clock in the afternoon after a big hailstorm came through was about optics and about where you are when you're a young guy, maybe family obligations or a young family, versus when you're 50 years old, you've got time to hunt, you're set up financially, and the story that you just talked about other European brands, those brands, the high-end Loophole, the VX6s, name those European brands up that top end. It's something we all want to get to, but it's very easy for reviewers and people that are influencing the market to focus on those and forget about the bloke that's got $1,500 in his pocket and he wants to go and experience a genuine hunt, feed his family with their first bit of backstrap off that fallow or that red, and we all start somewhere, and it's very easy for a lot of people in the market talking about products to focus on the high end but lose their focus there. And the particular gentleman was talking about has a YouTube channel, and he has a lot of products that start with ski and poled in their brand. There's his two main brands, and he admitted after careful reflection that it was a Tasco World Class that started his journey as
Yep.
many other people's, and I think we need to get back to that, because I think that enables more hunters to feel. I shoot a competition these days. I just got a brand new 6x47 Lapua custom rifle built on a $5,000 action, with a Mark V loophole, which is a $5,000 scope, with the appropriate stock, so on and so forth, to shoot my first go at PRS. And when you go to the PRS range, and I've experienced this at hunting before, you go to a PRS range and you see every guy on the range has $10,000 worth of kit, and you go, hey, I've just had a baby, I've got mortgage to pay, I want to get into this, but I don't feel I can achieve it.
Yeah.
And
How can I compete?
Yeah, how can I compete? I shot some bench rest a few years ago, shot the 2017 Nationals, and that was my first experience to see every person travelling across Australia with $15,000 worth of gear, and having a new guy to the sport going, wow, how am I going to achieve and be a part of this? And I've had the same thing with hunting. One of a few hunting cliques when I was young, had some mates that were builders, and I'm a lowly old mechanic by trade. And my mates that were builders were earning that, $800 a week, and I'm earning me $350, $400 a week as a mechanic, and they were buying those big brands. And I'm starting out with a second-hand Ruger Mark 1 22-50, and they're buying the big stuff, and you can feel a little bit beaten down. You can feel a little bit not a part of the group sometimes, if because you can get some guys that definitely you're not in our group because you're a bit of a don't have the right gear, So I'm always conscious of that when you're meeting new people and you're bringing new people to the sport, that, hey mate, have a go at my rifle, have a go at this, or let's make you feel welcome, and don't worry about your gear, because I think we've all experienced in different parts of hunting, maybe not feeling as greatly welcome as you could because you do have an old Ruger instead of the latest whatever brand it is.
And especially with people getting into it as a choice to hunt, that you can see that kind of is as you're right with the practical long range, that's expensive kit. You just see the photos, you go, oh, okay, yeah, that's that guy's. He don't have a boat. That's his hobby. That's his boat. That's his boat. He's that's his boat. That's his hobby. And you see that, and it can be. I'm sure it can be disheartening some people. Conversely, like people.
You said a lot. Did you say?
We see it. We see it a lot. We get a lot of listeners contact us after we put podcasts out, especially when we do gear reviews. Not so much the reviews that you're talking about, the influencing market reviews, where we're just talking about the stuff that we have and we use every day. Sure. And we have people ring and they say, okay, or message us and say, well, we've seen your videos, we've bought all that stuff. Now where are the deer? So where do we go next? Like, and this is for real. Like, people really, really want to get into this stuff. So they soak up the information. They look at the pack breakdowns. Okay, well, I didn't think about taking that, so I've got that in my pack now. And that's really great. Nothing substitutes time in the bush. As a way to shoot an animal. It doesn't matter whether you've got a top end rifle or not. If you're not spending time in the bush, then you're not going to shoot anything. So that should come first. But we had a group just recently go down chasing sambar in Victoria, and it's great because we're part of the club, and we're willing to share. Right? So we had new members that met us at a dinner in Toowoomba after the show that they had up here, and they said, "Oh, we really want to join and come down to your sambar trip, but we're really not sure. Is my rifle good enough? Is my scope good enough?" And but these guys, they'll jump on forums and they're like, "We're going to go shooting sambar." Well, you can't shoot sambar if you don't have, this scope with this, tiny little magnification because you're going to be bush hunting. Well, shit, I've got a 4.5 by whatever. Yeah. I can't hunt sambar. Like, bullshit. Just take what you've got and go and spend time in the bush. Yes, you might not have the most optimal setup for that, But if you're going to go shoot and sample once a year from Queensland,
Sure.
you're not going to go and buy a specific sample rifle with a specific sample scope to suit that one hunt that you might see a sample. I mean, at the end of the day, they did. It was great. They had a really good time, but it wasn't the scope that stopped them, and they had that mid-range package. I've been in situations where I've doubted my setup, being good enough because you're down to those tiny last seconds of low light where, if you had a slightly better one, you might be able to see for just those couple of minutes longer. And that magic hour or that magic few minutes right at the end where things start to come alive and pop up in front of you, if you don't have the right stuff, then you might miss some opportunities. But I also say, if your binos aren't as good as your scope, then you're never going to see what you missed out on and you won't be disappointed anyway. So just match your scope appropriately and you'll be just fine. Don't worry about it. But there's lots of ways of thinking about it. But you're bang on. People should buy what they can afford. Forums are great, but how often do you jump on a forum and some poor bloke's going, what scope should I buy? Oh, don't walk out the door unless you got this one. Like, just save a bit longer. Don't go hunting yet. Save longer. Get a better one. Mate.
The best equipment you can ever have is the gear you already got.
Yeah.
If you can afford. Yeah, absolutely.
Mate, if you've already got a rifle, and as long as the caliber can do the job, mate, put a better bullet in it. Put a, if you've got a lighter caliber, a 243, you're going for a, and your state allows you to hunt with that 243, that particular species. Put a heavy 100 grain solid construction bullet. It's going to give you a bit of penetration. Get out there with the equipment that you got. And worry about the other stuff because, the brands will come, as you get confidence. But a lot of people can get put off by, mate, that's fuel money. If you've gone and saved up for a bit more, to buy that brand name scope at that ultra high end price, that could be 2 trips worth of fuel money. You could have been out there and done it and got the experience and met 5 new people and got access to new properties and a new community. And
let's be real, that's a trip to New Zealand and back. Right? Honestly, the price you can pay for some of those scopes. But you're right. And look, let's not knock high end brands.
No,
if you can afford it. It's great. And I started competition shotgun shooting some time ago, and I started with a cheaper shotgun. And as I progressed through the ranks and into double A's, I then upgraded the shotgun. I wasn't going to start with a $10,000 shotgun to start with. And you do that with your hunting gear. There's always horse trading within the club. There's always borrowing and doing things. But I think the message is just get out there and do it.
Yeah, simply buy the best you can afford. Yeah, and that's it. And that's the line. So and even with the big M brands, there's even within that, there's entry points.
Sure.
Yeah.
VX Freedom in Loophole's a perfect example. It's a $450, $500 optic.
And one of the other things I find is especially in the optics conversation, is that we're kind of getting into for a lot of people, it's like this magnification arms race. It's got to have if the front glass is not 56, well, you can't see anything. And if you can't wind it up to 25, then you're not going to see anything.
Yeah, it needs to be fit for.
So I think and of course that just adds to dollars. That's just a multiplier of not only magnification, but it's a multiplier of dollars. So having a more appropriate scope for your general purpose, you can still buy a good quality brand scope and find the right model in that particular that brand's range, and actually get something that's far more suited to what you're doing. And that's the whole question. People say, we actually, Jono and I did a podcast called Caliber Craziness, where we just kind of went through it, and that's actually got one of the best responses, because we just broke it down. And then we did another one on rifle on optics, and that just but ultimately it's get started, find your entry point, get into it, and start exploring. I mean, I've made plenty of mistakes along the way, but I made them through practical application. That doesn't work in this situation. Okay, I'm learning that now. But you also learn what works exactly in those situations.
And there's some people that come into this that aren't very technical. It was a lot of years before I even really understood that you could take a caliber and option up the grain size. Mm-hmm. I just went and bought the same bullets every time. I didn't even consider that you could, create a different rifle out of the ammunition that you chose. Mm-hmm. For Christ's sake, that the scope that you had on your rifle when we went to the NT, if I'd seen that 2 years ago, I would have told you it was on backwards. It didn't look right. It was the wrong shape. There's perceptions out there that, if you're new into it and you don't understand it, it can take a long time to get there. So you take people's opinions and you get the standard. It's bizarre. If you want to learn from people that have been around it, and you'll get some great advice.
Yeah. I think the best experience with clubs, no matter the discipline, whether it's hunting, whether it's discipline shooting, is like anything in life, listen to all the opinions, do your own research, and then make your own choice, because clubs and associations are a great resource, but everyone skins the cat something different for how they like to do it.
Yeah.
So if I can give some advice to any new hunter out there, is get involved, meet people like yourself, but make your own choice at the end of the day. See what thinks you Mark, you said it great. You're going to make some mistakes along the way. We're human. Sometimes that setup that we bought might not work perfectly for us in 3 years. But I tell you what, the more time you make up your own choices, those lessons will be learnt better than just taking what other people tell you to do.
Definitely.
I do not own a rifle that looks like when I bought it. There's no rifle that looks like that, except for actually there is one. I bought a little lever action for my son, and I haven't played with it yet.
Yes.
So it is as it was supplied, but everything else has changed. Scopes up and down, rings, the whole lot, all that stuff, and you just keep experimenting, and you keep getting better. And it's funny that advice. I was at the range, Belmont Range, many years ago, and there was a young guy. And he had one of those lovely stainless Marlins in 30-30. And he was struggling with it. He was struggling to get it on paper. And he was sitting next bench, and I started talking to him, and he was quite despondent. And he said, "Oh, my boss laughed at me when I bought this thing, and he said it won't kill anything." And I said, "Mate, that gun has probably killed more game." Than any other gun ever made, except for possibly the Model 700 Remington. I said that thing was for many years the world's deer gun. That was it. Whitetail, mule deer, they fell, not by the truckload, by the container loaders to a 30-30. That'll work.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I read a fair bit of American content as well, because I find they've got some good information out there, and a lot of those Field and Stream articles and magazines like that all rank 30-30, 30-06 in the top 5 game cartridges worldwide, as far as everyone's got a slightly different opinion of which one's at 1 and 2 and 3, but 30-30, 30-06 are always in the mix for falling the most game worldwide and doing the best job. Yep. So, a cartridge like a 30-30, it's been around for 142 years or something like that. It'd be about 140 years or something like that. A cartridge like that is still an effective cartridge then as it is today.
Yeah. And in fact, it's probably got more effective because, technology improvements,
better bullet quality,
factory ammo being what it is, the fact that you can get, polymer tip 30-30 now, so you can get a ballistic outcome out of it. The whole
Mate, if you want to go deer hunting or proper hunting for the first time, and you've been a shooter in Western Queensland or Western New South Wales on a property and you had a 30-30 to chase pigs, don't be afraid to hit that bush and go and find yourself a deer, because mate, that's going to do everything that you need it to do.
Yeah, well, as a poor apprentice, left-handed, that's where I started with lever actions, because it took me many years to be able to afford the left-handed bolt action. So I started with lever action. So I've got a soft spot for them. And
so were you one of these lefties that shoots left shoulder and cycles the bolt right-handed with a right-handed gun?
How do I do it? I haven't done it with so long with a righty.
A lot of guys sort of do it.
Everything's on left. Everything's on the left because I'm left eye dominant and the whole lot.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I used to kind of do this weird. Well, I used to pop it up and cycle it that way. Yeah. That's why. When I could afford it, I got rid of it. I never went back. It was always weird, kind of.
I got an old mate of mine from Walker in New South Wales that shoots. He's right-handed, right eye dominant. Everything about him is right-handed, except for he shoots left-handed with his left eye and cycles it with his right hand because his dad shot left-handed with right-handed guns, and that was how he's taught to shoot. Right. That's what he does. I've never been able to convince him to get by a left-handed gun.
Yeah. I got a topic change. Quick topic change. Sure. We could talk about this stuff for ages, but I want to hit you another question. Being in the marketing world for NIOA, like you are, you have access to some pretty cool stuff as it comes to market. You play with. Hopefully, I'm not asking an inappropriate question here, but I assume you get to go and play with all of this stuff, or as it comes out, you get to pick and choose and play and test and do stuff with it. Is that part of the gig? Well, you're not that lucky. We don't have that much time.
50-50 on that one. So that one's when you go to SHOT Show, they have industry range day on the Monday, and you do get to actually play with the brand new stuff they release most of the time. Then, if it's something that's released mid-year, most of the time it's 6 or 8 months before we get our hands on the product. I was lucky enough to shoot the Marlin SBL 4570 made by Ruger, the only one in the country I shot last week.
Nice.
Okay. You can't pull it out of the arms cupboard, sign it out, and go up to say pig block. That's not how it works.
I'm not sure. We have 100-meter range in our facility, so we get to use that in there.
Which model is that one? Is it the 366, the 336, or is it the 1895 or whatever it is?
1895 stainless big loop.
That's what I want.
Yep. So and Ruger's
or a guide gun.
Well, they've just released last week. Ruger announced Ruger/Marlin, because that's who they are these days. Marlin just announced their 1895 guide gun version.
Yeah, that's the one.
And we might see it in a year's time if we're lucky.
Yeah.
Based on the current supply situation.
Speaking of supply, do you see ammunition supplies improving, or is that going to be an issue for a while?
What are you struggling to get?
No, it's just everything.
Ammo.
So I'll give you a tip.
Except for 155.
Plenty of that.
Plenty of casings.
Look, don't get me wrong. We have product coming monthly, many containers. Our situation is it's not enough to cover our dealers' back orders, because our dealers' back orders in Australia have increased the same as America's have increased for multiple reasons. Look at the dollar. If you're a business right now, we've lost 13% in the dollar since our new price list came out in January, February this year. So if you're a business right now and we had some stock, you'd be buying bigger quantities and reordering and trying to beat price rises and material rises. I think the long answer is we're definitely going to see ammunition and component shortages for years to come. I'm seeing the accessory market already improving. We've got lots of accessories on the way, and we have plenty in stock of many. We might not. I first want to say we're not going to have everything, but we have quite a lot of products. But ammunition is going to be the thing that is the most difficult to get, and components for the longest amount of time when it comes to that.
You mean reloading components?
Reloading components will be the longest delay. Ammunition will be the next. Many conversations I've had with our ammunition companies in the last 6 months, and all of them said They are many, many years, and I won't repeat the number, but they are many, many, many years in back order for ammunition and components.
Yeah.
So we really are at the mercy of that. But the bright side is a lot of the other product is starting to come back online. But definitely with ammunition, get your hands on it when you can get it. I'd give you a little short story. Again, that conference I was at last week, I had to take the 100 rounds of 6.5 Creedmoor out of our showroom to be able to shoot down the range, because we do not have a round of 6.5 Creedmoor in all the codes, and I think we probably have 30 codes of 6.5 Creedmoor at least on offer, and I'm probably underestimating that, and we don't have one single part number available. So we had some in the showroom, and I went and grabbed it out of the showroom just to be able to test the rifle. So
we need local manufacturers. What we need.
Definitely need more of that.
Probably export it, Jono.
Probably.
Not at all. Not at all. And one rumour I can quash: no 155 artillery shells are not filled with Trail Boss. We have had several rumours and emails from consumers speaking about Trail Boss loaded in artillery shells, and
What's
no,
Trail
they
Boss?
don't. Like,
Yeah, what is it?
ADI powder.
Oh,
ADI
okay.
Trail Boss powder.
Really?
It has
There's a
nothing to do with
guy
the
in the factory with this.
That's exactly right.
You equipped that one wrong. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Where's the puller?
Unfortunately, we have had that come across our desk a couple of times. It's come across my desk.
Okay, so that was the
It's
problem.
had some.
That's why we've got shortages.
The reason it's not available is because you're pouring those 155s.
Unfortunately, that is not correct. So
Wow.
I thought I'd just knock that on the head while we were talking.
Wow.
But
Yeah, there's some poor bloke up there now having to pull those shells so they can get it back in the market.
Is there any new products coming out that you're allowed to share that we should get excited about? Or
I think. Let me think now.
Or something you're excited about? Like
I
something
tell you
that's
what.
come out, or what's the hot product?
I think it's been out for a little while now. The BX5 Santiam range in Leupold. It's their very high end European equivalent. If we spoke about some of them brands. If you look at the price point, you'll save a significant amount of money. Go and do a low light test, and you'll find that they stack up all the way at the top. It's a great product. I think we've underestimated. Again, and it's not necessarily a deer hunting thing, but it's still a hunting product. The Bushmeister BAX12 that we've released to the market, we are finally seeing them come through every month. I looked at a pile of camo, I think it was 12 pallets or something of Bushmaster BAX12 20-inch camos.
They're
turned up.
They're what's the name? Straight pull 12 gauge. Is that correct?
They're a lever release 12 gauge.
Lever
Yeah.
release. Right.
Press the button, throws it
Yes.
forward, pull the trigger, blows back, press the button, pull the trigger.
That's right.
So that's a product, and we're getting them through very regularly right now. So we're pushing those through. A little product that is not, again, it's a fun, when you go on that hunting trip and you got a bit of downtime and you end up shooting a few tin cans or something of that nature.
We're not allowed to do that in Safe Forest, sorry.
Correct. But on private property, it's
On private property, yeah.
Yeah,
Talk about ammo
okay, sure.
shortages, man. Who shoots tin cans anymore?
That's right, mate. Who can afford to shoot tin cans anymore? With my Creedmoor, I can't shoot.
That's right. Mate, the Cordwell Claymore little target thrower, it's a foot operated mechanical, no battery.
I saw that weird thing.
Yeah, it is so cool that we are going to get a container of those guys in the coming months, and that is something that is just fun. Like, that's the way you get people excited about getting out into the field, no matter what what your endeavour it is. If you're out in the field, then you can have a bit of reactive fun, and it kills that downtime through the day. And, no battery, has a 50 stack. Mate,
Nice.
That little product is something that's pretty cool. But
that sounds like fun.
pardon?
Yeah, it
Sounds like fun.
I saw something about it. It looked quite interesting.
But definitely anything in that BX5 Santiam range, I'm a little bit excited about, and that's because I'm trying to find the money to buy one for myself.
It's
So,
a BX5, okay.
yeah, BX5 Santiam. They do spotting scopes and in the Loophole range, and they do binoculars.
Santiam, yeah.
And if you get a chance to have a crack at looking through one of them, if you're keen, they are a great bit of kit and will stack up against anything you'll throw at it, in my opinion.
Okay.
Very
There's
good.
a couple of quick ones for you.
Because to completely contradict myself, I noticed that Swarovski have got these little spotting scopes coming out that are about that big, and very interesting looking.
Those, the little guy I saw,
Yeah,
is it like spin? That like it can
Little-
go from an
little
angle
orange,
to a straight?
A little orange, tilt angle, angle spotting scope, little tiny backpack one.
Yeah, there's been a few of those in the market in other brands
Yes,
over the years.
I've got a little Cowl one.
Yeah.
It's a great little thing. Yeah, but I
Yeah,
saw that.
Loophole's had a little 20 power that's been that big for, I think, 20 years.
They got that one that where it's the eyepiece is above the lens. That the old
Yeah, so they
Bob's
got-
one, but that's quite a famous spotting skirt by Loophole. I can't
It's
remember.
actually used by a lot of our defence force.
Yeah,
that one.
that's it.
Yeah.
You see that very heavily is in defence. That one. That's it's because it's. I suppose it's much more compact in a way.
Here's a question for you guys. Straight tube spotting scopes, in your experience, versus angled eyepiece, because in my world, I'm seeing, particularly out of the US market, a lot of push to straight spotting scopes for backpackability. So you can go down
I got
that.
mine.
Yeah. Are you seeing a trend towards that away from angled?
Oh, I'm not going to call it a trend,
I could break out my Swarovski one and show you.
mine's straight. Mine's
straight.
straight, and purely for the packability.
Yeah.
And completely incorrectly, but the other reason I bought it was that I figured that if you didn't have to bend light, it was going to be better. But that's just not how they work. So, my brain said do this, but the packability certainly was an important part.
Packability and also in a lot of ways friendlier usability. An angled scope certainly has its place. If you're looking up and things like that, so you're in
Alpine regions,
New Zealand, or you're in Alpine country, or like you see them in British Columbia, and where you're sitting down and you're looking. There's the sheep up the hill, so you're sitting down comfortably, and so the scope's in front of you and you're looking up. But I found that if you're like out in the scrub and you go, there's something at distance, it's much easier to get the straight one out, put it in a smaller tripod, sit on your bum, and just you can kind of look at what you're looking at, and then bang, you get it. So I actually went straight on my bigger spotting scope. I've got a little angled spotting scope, and the reason why I went a little angled spotting scope is technically because it's so short, it's actually a little bit more compact as an angled. But my bigger spotting scope is straight, and it does make a lot of sense in most applications. Like, for instance, when I'm most using a spotting scope, I'm not looking up, I'm looking maybe a level of elevation, but it's more flat. So I'm actually kind of sitting there looking at the thing so I can get the scope and use it that way. I find that just makes more sense to me.
Another little product which I think will speak to you guys, very hunting related, is really come up in the marketplace for us is things like Bog, Death Grip, Infinite, backpack tripods. The amount of tripods that are being sold in the Australian market for hunting
Bog,
now is
Infinite,
unbelievable.
Oh, okay.
Bog,
I'm talking
tripods.
Are they using them to shoot off?
yes, in hunting situations.
Yeah.
Yes, I see what you mean.
So it's like the
Infinite carbon tripods. You can use your rifle in it. You can use your spotting scope in it. The things like Spartan systems that come with Spartan. We're the Spartan distributor these days for Australia. We picked up that in May, and we've just tripods in general. Like I've been full time in the trade for about 14 years now, and I've never seen a dealer in the country have 6 $350 or $400 tripods sitting on his shelf and they're selling.
I mean, I'm a big fan of the Spartan kit. I've got a number of their pieces. I think it's excellent. It's such a lightweight kit, so modular, so you can pack it away. When you want it, you can pop it on the rifle. But saying that, I've also got a Primos trigger stick that I carry with me, so I love it. I use it all the time. I can put my kit.
So do you use the Davros head on your Primos trigger stick?
I've got the Davros, plus I've got a bar pod as well. Yeah.
Watch out for some other stuff coming with from other large manufacturers with Spartan adaptability, let's say.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
That wasn't going to take long.
Yeah, so keep your eyes clear. Yeah.
I came across Spartan in the UK and actually reviewed them in the UK for Australian magazine through Ray Trade UK at the time. But in terms of learning, that's one of those things that I've learnt that I don't use. So
right.
So I've given away bipods and things like that. I find them. Yeah, I haven't figured out. My hunting just doesn't suit them. I just don't.
Everyone's different, but we're seeing an appetite now.
I've got a very good quality bipod in with the gun stuff, and it pretty much sits there. I've tried to use it. I use a tripod for the camera. That's a different thing. But for a hunting situation, I just haven't found that that's what it is.
It's interesting, because I love it, and you guys put me onto it. And I've only just recently stuck it on my rifle, and it suits me completely because I don't want a bipod on my rifle when I'm bush hunting. But every now and then you get that situation where you just want the bipod and you just flick it out of your rhino rig.
I mean, I
carried it.
I had a Harris on my rifle for years, and then I found a Spartan kit, and just pop it on when you need it. Otherwise, it sits in the pack or sits in your
And one little adapter for all your rifles and the same bipod stays in my bino rig. That makes a lot of sense.
A great thing we're starting to see is we've got the gunsmith adapters in stock. And the amount of people buying 2 gunsmith adapters and having them permanently suck into their old rifle, one at the front where you traditionally would mount your sling swivel or your sling stud, and one towards the magazine or the floor plate, so they can do a tripod if they want to. And I've just, that's blown me away, because coming from an area where you wouldn't have seen a tripod for 100 kilometres. Or even thought about packing a tripod, and now packing a tripod, and I took this to people like Meat Eater, and they are packing that stuff. Randy Newberg, those American guys are starting to filter down in the Australian ideas right now, and oh geez, we can use that. And the popularity, I'm sure you guys are seeing, of long range hunting is really, I'm not a great fan of distance shooting game, but there's some people that have the knowledge and the tool and the equipment to partake in that. But let me tell you, that field uses those kind of tripods and systems, we'll call them hunting systems, very successively.
Yeah, and they're heavily influenced by when they're hunting in the what the Yanks refer to as their Western environment. So you've actually got potential for long range shots, but you also got the very little cover or very little natural support and things like that. I think it's horses for courses. Generally, I generally hunt in scrub, so I actually find they're getting away a little bit.
Sure.
The only time I've ever reached for them is when I'm hunting reds, because you often transition, so you might have the 200 to 300 view, but more than likely, that game's at within 100 yards. I mean, those buffalo are at 40 yards. So.
Yeah, that's right.
You got to point the rifle out there. We got pointed it at him.
We got close.
Yes, correct. And it started at 40 yards and ended at 20. So so that's it. So that was it. So it's that application. But certainly if that's what you want to go towards, there's a hell of a lot of options. I mean, I've got a Spartan on it, and I just find that it just doesn't work for me in most situations.
You talk about Western American hunting. I just started planning a US pronghorn hunt for next year with one of my work colleagues for my 40th birthday next year. I'm getting a little bit excited about that because there's a lot of pronghorn stuff starting to hit YouTube, and I consume a bit of that. And I've got my US counterparts manufacturers sending a few pictures, of different game. Some of their seasons are opening now, so it's always a good time to have your international friends send you their pictures, which is getting my blood boiling about going. And I've always wanted pronghorns quite high on my list to go and have a taste of, and hopefully get the opportunity to plan that out over the next couple of weeks, particularly. So
that's good.
Good luck with that.
Great fun
for sure. Hey, mindful of time, we've nearly hit 2 hours. So we will have to wrap, but we have some pretty tough questions that we have to ask you before we let you go.
Sure.
They're the hard ones. Mark, do you want to crack on with the first one?
Sure. So if you say, "Hey, Jono, get me a sandwich," and you say, "I want ham and cheese," are you expecting there's going to be tomato on that, or is it just ham and cheese?
Ham and cheese.
There we go. Thank you very much.
Ham and cheese.
That's a win. That's a win.
Heading off to your next hunting trip by yourself in the car. What are you playing on the radio?
I'm playing Riley Green. I'm playing Riley Green. Grandpa's Never Die, probably, or Luke Coombs, but probably Riley Green.
Did you get tickets?
I did not get tickets, but I was lucky enough to see Brad Paisley the other night here in Brisbane. So I did get to see Brad on my wedding anniversary. Thank you to my darling wife.
Wow.
Who was what was the artist that you spoke of?
Riley Green.
Ian's a big country fan, so he's Googling that right now.
Write it down. The only reason we ask these questions is to expand my Spotify. To that point, do you have a favourite book or a book that you would recommend people pick up and have a read of, other than your catalogue?
Sure. I won't say the NIOA magazine, but I will say a really good read is Eva Shockey's book on, I think it's called Broadhead, but Eva Shockey, who's Jim Shockey's daughter, that her book about hunting as a female, I never thought I'd enjoy, but some of the stories she talks about for Jim's hunts in the early days, her experiences in Alaska, some of the best hunting stuff you'll ever read. And if you download the audio book, she narrates it herself.
That's good.
Okay,
cool.
Wow.
And she went to Bond University here in Queensland.
Did she?
So,
really? Wow.
She did.
Wow.
She studied here. So
that's interesting.
That is a really good story of someone who is a ballet dancer by trade and didn't want to be a part of Dad's business and got into hunting in her 20s, and look where it's taken her.
Wow.
So it's a great story to get.
That sounds good. One from myself. You pull into the servo. Are you buying yourself a $1 coffee, or are you avoiding that completely?
Oh, $1 coffee? What is that rubbish? Mate, $1. Are you talking about like the 7-Eleven $1 coffee?
Yep,
that's what we're talking about.
That's the one.
No way.
Good.
Mate, I would rather get some Makona or some of that. I tried that dog and gun stuff the other day in my jet boil, and mate, you tried that stuff?
Yeah,
the little,
mate, got a lot of that.
All over that stuff, mate. I'd rather do that than pull in the dolly. Here we go, turn it up.
He's jet boiling on the desk. Good on him.
Mate, I'd rather that than the $1 coffee.
Good answer.
Good answer.
What else do we have? There was another one, a really tough one.
Oh, I don't know. I make this stuff up as I go, mate.
I know, that's why they're so hard.
That's why it's so hard, because I can't remember. So it was the sandwich is really important. It's what's on the radio. It's the coffee. There was something else, wasn't there?
There was
I
something.
can't think of it.
I can't remember.
Coffee?
We'll send you an email.
And the book, won't it?
Yeah, look, that's it. That's all of them.
Maybe that's enough. That's enough.
All the other one for the food on the hunting trips, the KFC Twister in the Daihatsu Scat glove box for the 11 o'clock. The 11 o'clock.
We used to call those Cuzzy Packs.
I worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken as a teenager, and we called it Unlucky Fried Kitten.
I used to have a Daihatsu Scat we used to shoot of, and they had that metal glove box, so you could go through the drive-through, throw it in that metal glove box, blow the heater on it, and mate, she was gold.
I never thought of that one. I know the Scats. My mate there was the Scat, and my mate had a Sierra and stuff like that. Yeah, but no, I didn't realise. I never thought of it that we were hot, Brisbane, so never needed to keep the Kentucky Fried Chicken warm.
Mate, and
but that was a great idea.
Yeah.
Topanundle, mate, or anywhere there in the middle of winter, shoot a few foxes. Anything that comes about, let me tell you, you'll need the heater on. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
that's for sure.
KFC.
From the Wi-Fi tree.
That's right, the Wi-Fi tree.
The Wi-Fi tree. All right, we'll wrap it up there. That's been awesome. Thanks very much, Jason, for coming on the podcast. It's been great having you here. I know we've been talking about it for a little while, but some really good information and some really great ideas for new hunters. So really appreciate that, mate. And we'll keep in touch for sure.
Thanks very much,
keep
mate.
in touch, guys. But any time I can help out, happy to be on.
Great,
Awesome.
mate.
Thanks, mate.
Love it.
Appreciate it.
Unreal.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.
See you later, guys.